Good evening, Free Enterprise fans, and welcome to tonight's final round of the round of 16. This is our last match in the brackets round between riversmccown and muchparanoia. One of these runners is going to go home, but one of these is going to advance for a round of 8. I am Baka Shinobi, and I am joined by Hupfin. How are you doing tonight, Hupfin?
I'm doing pretty well. I was doing a bit of the original Final Fantasy VII earlier today, anticipation of the remake of that. So happy to see some more twisted up Final Fantasy this evening.
And a lot of twisted Final Fantasy we have today, as we've got a Rosa start in this seed, where it's going to be a bit interesting. Rosa can go and pull out some good DPS when she has an effective bow and some good arrows, but you're not going to be able to find elven bows in pro shops, I believe, so that's going to be a bit of a tricky measure to get over.
I just noticed what River's name scheme is, and therefore who he's starting with, and I feel like I'm only going to disappoint.
How can you disappoint? You're Rosa. You're one of the best characters in the seed.
Look, I have capabilities.
Well, if you have to rely on Rosa for DPS, that is going to be hard, because Rosa, she's good, but she, again, needs that really strong bow, and they can be pretty hard to find on T-Pro, S-Pro, where the treasure's a bit more lean than it is on T-Standard, except for in certain locations where it'll be a bit more generous. But if we don't have a good supporting member, we might go and be in for a bit of a slow start.
And we do have a cut-down set of options for that supporting character, given that we have the distinct 7, and we have no dupes. So we're really hoping that Rosa isn't joined by another Rosa, because that's just going to make it tougher.
Yeah, that would be a bit rude. I think under these flags, it does go and guarantee that the second character is unique, so it's not going to go, so you don't go and get stuck in the, well, we said 2 characters, but you only get 1. I think the randomizer is programmed to be a little stricter on that point, just so that the opening isn't so completely mean.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't know, because these are much tougher flag sets than I tend to play, and that's what we want to throw people at in the bracket stages. We want to show their skill, and we are getting to get to see that skill right now.
Oh yeah, we'll be starting shortly, and all the races so far in the bracket rounds have been great, and we are now going into this match. Well, let's see who we get as our partner.
Got ourselves a Sid start and a Hook start.
Ooh.
And we see the Pain Man guarding the throne.
That is certainly a start to draw you in. That Sid is definitely probably the best character you can go and see on this flag set, where you can't go and start with Edge or Kasoya. Sid starts at level 20, and he's going to go and do some decent damage all on his own, and he can use a pretty good variety of weapons.
Yep, got the hammers, got the axes, got the bows, if you stumble upon multiple. And we've got these objectives: to find Edward, complete Cave Bahamut, raise the big whale. I missed a couple of those because these runners are going through them fast.
I believe our tracker Scala-Kitty will go and get them out for us as soon as she's finished replacing them. Yeah, defeat Leviathan, get Edward, and we'll be going to be seeing those as we see 2 different paths from our runners for early looting. Rivers going into Baron, and muchparanoia going into Damcian.
And that Baron dip means we know where Edward is. That's the way you arrange that sentence?
I mean, I'll leave it up to you, because I'm not going to try and say it, because Edward is a unique character. He is either terribly useless and you leave him dead for most of the seed, or he solos Aromas because he's the only one who really can do that. So this is going to be an interesting thing where, so we know one of our characters is, we knew one of our characters was Edward when we got the message, get Edward, because you have to be able to get a character in your seed. And we know Rivers knows where an Edward is, but I don't think Paranoia is going to go and be in a position to be looking for them long.
Now, Paranoia had just took the beeline for that hovercraft. Both the runners checking the watery pass, just finding the dolls there. We are looking for a single boss, so you might as well check those out-of-the-way spots early, just get them out of your mind.
Agreed, and you can still go and find Demas to give some extra value, as Demas, while not required, is going to give you a key item. That's something that can go and help you out a fair bit, and Paranoia deciding to just take their hovercraft and go right now. Rivers, on the other hand, choosing not to even launch the hovercraft right now, instead going to Fabul, or they're going to Silvera, it looks like. Looks like they're shopping.
Yeah, River's probably thinking that same thought about Rosa needing a better bow to really be effective in an offensive spot. And there's a lot of free treasure here. I say a lot, it's like 3 spots, but still.
He finds the curse strings, and that might be a lot of the treasure he really cares to see, because that is one of the best items to go and find. That curse string, I'm not going to say minus 15 all stats. Yes, please, give me one as soon as possible. But there's a bit of shenanigans you can go and do with the agility system in this game, as it's based off of the middle character rather than any more neutral point of reference. So you can go and manipulate that. So if you make your middle character incredibly slow, you can make everyone else in your party and the enemies incredibly fast by comparison. And there's a limit to how fast things can be. So if your enemy's already hitting that upper limit, you can just put all of your team at that upper limit and get a big advantage.
And Chad is pointing out that yes, we have found the Thunderclaw, which I know a number of people are fans of the Thunderclaw.
Ooh.
We do not yet have a party member who... Okay, we do find a party member who could use the Thunderclaw, because we find an edge in the Eblin Caves.
And that is going to give a big edge to Paranoia, as Edge definitely goes and does better DPS than Sid does at this stage. Yes, he doesn't go and start with certain amazing weaponry, but there's a lot of things he can go and get. And he's just going to be able to go and rip through this overworld. Rivers is going to go and be a little upset, I think, when he discovers that he's left that on the table.
I just want to point out that's not a big edge. He's a normal size edge.
I mean, he's level 25. It's a bit bigger than the other parts of the team.
Sure, relatively speaking, yes, but not relative to other edges, who we will not be seeing join the party because, we have no dupes on.
But in the meantime, we see that Paranoia did save and is going back through this cave. One thing that we're going to point out, as I mentioned, on T-Pro, the locations are weighted to go and give better treasures based on pretty much how dangerous or how out of the way and obnoxious they are to get to, as this is a location with a trap chest encounter. You're not really going to want to go and open as many boxes as possible at some points just to avoid trying to get into that encounter. So Paranoia has managed to dodge it so far, and he has just found it, and now he gets to go and reloot everything, as he doesn't actually want to take that fight.
It might be a viable fight if you get an hourglass in there, but viable does not mean easy or worth doing.
Yeah, those charm arrows will do bonus damage, but you need to have a bow to go with it. You want to be set up for it, and the stalemain don't really give much experience, so it's maybe you go and get something really, really nice off of opening it, beating them and getting a high tier treasure, but I can see just passing by. Meanwhile, River's finding Mob Bomb in Antlion Cave, taking them out with a bit of attacking, and then using a Stardust to take care of the ads.
And getting the Vanilla Sand Ruby for the trouble, so that is a character spot. Again, we don't know who it is, so we don't know if it's a keepable character.
Yeah, it could be a copy of that Edge, which would negate a bit of Paranoia's advantage. Or it could be another character. We could go and have Fusoya in that bed, which would be a huge advantage for Rivers. And we also have Netherrunner going to Mount Hobbs to see who that character is. We could potentially have a 5-character team pretty early on with this set.
Yeah, which is not something you see very often.
No, on 7 distinct no dupes, it is actually pretty difficult to get up to a 5-character team. It's not unreasonable, actually, to go and get up to Zeromus with only 4 characters in some flag set, or some of these seeds.
Well, it's not an edge, but it is Iridia, And since we found that Sylph, she has a bit more application.
Yeah, Sylph is kind of like a virus with a longer cast time that also heals your party and goes through wall, which can be very helpful in certain situations. Without that edge, Rivers, this does go and help Rivers get some good DPS early on.
Yeah, of course, you have to spend a little bit of time getting her levels so that she actually has the MP to, be able to cast Sylph. You just need enough to cast it once if you're able to pull the glitch, but starting off, Rydia doesn't even have that.
Yes, Rydia starts with, she starts at level 1 and has a paltry 10 MP, I think.
Yep.
So, not really in the position to really go and cast many spells, but again, starting at level 1, it doesn't take too long for her to get those spells, and Rivers is choosing to loot the Watery Pass. As I said, places that are out of the way get better treasure on average, and this is a place that is kind of out of the way.
Yeah, not a lot of reason to go here other than looting what you hope are higher quality chests. There's no key item location, no character. We already saw the boss isn't even relevant.
Yeah, there's really not much to do here, but Rivers pulls some stuff out of boxes, and, well, if he chooses to go and grab his hovercraft and check Eblin Cave, he'll go and have a little bit of a damage upgrade with that middle sword for edge.
But first it's going to be a visit up Hobbs as Paranoia gets the Sand Ruby as well.
Do we have eyes on 6 characters in the seed already?
I think we do. I think that's how math works.
That's pretty impressive, all things considered. We can actually go and put together a pretty functional team with this all. And Rivers does have a curse string, which I don't believe Paranoia has managed to pop out in one of his checks so far, so that is a bit of an advantage for him. Sid is not going to go and gain much agility as time goes on, so he can just simply gain levels, and with a curse string, he'll make a fantastic anchor for some of these more obnoxious fights.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was going to say, and Invenerable in chat, cheering on for the hopes of no Fisolia and no Tella, so that there's no hopes of a good D-Machine grind option. That said, we have an edge, and there is an option to go and use edge to steal Sirens, which puts that back on the table.
Mm-hmm.
But, Rivers finds an Earth Hammer on top of Mount Hobbs and is walking out. That is a pretty solid weapon for Sid. And Rivers is content to just leave here. Well, let's see where he goes to next on this with this party.
Yeah, with no Tella, no food, no one who knows exit, there's less incentive to go over to the other side of Hobbs, spend all that time on a few questionable chests, but he's probably glad he checked that one. That's good gear to put on Sid early.
Yeah, that is definitely a very helpful chest to have, and Rivers going into, as I said, out of the way checks get bonuses, and the Chocobo Forest does count as out of the way.
Yeah, Rivers giving Rydia that Sylph did not check the free summon on the other side of Hobbs.
He might have.
There's only a couple that are like super worth it, honestly.
Yeah, you could go and pull Sylph, but that does mean watching a cutscene, and he already has Sylph, so maybe he's not concerned. Other notable ones would be maybe Ashura, maybe Titan. Those are probably the best ones to find, but Sylph is definitely going to go and be a known value that will carry a lot of damage early on, and he'll be able to cast it indefinitely with 67 mana, so I can see skipping it just to keep going.
Yeah, looks like he's gonna keep going straight on to Objective 2. Try and claim this Edward past the D-Lunars.
And I don't think he's going to have too much trouble. The D-Lunars will go and switch to casting Virus if you use the fight command on them. But if you go and kill them with one shot or use a different command, like aim, it doesn't count. So they just simply say, oh, well, that didn't count. Wow, when Rivers finds D-Mist here, this is another important boss to find. It's not an objective, but it's another key item check. The biggest issue Rivers is going to have here is this Demus is probably going to punch in one shot. Well, there goes Rydia.
Yeah. This is the karate boss, which you would expect a punch mage to punch hard. So, there's that.
If only Aryan can go and learn to punch that hard so quickly.
Well, he's got to get some levels first.
And there goes Rosa going down, but yeah, Rivers is going and leaning on Rydia to do the DPS, and Silph is definitely going to carry a fair amount of damages. I think this can get close to 1,000 damage here.
Over, it turns out.
That counts as close enough, right?
1,200 is close to 1,000, yes. Or this isn't The Price is Right.
And Rivers paying attention to the Demus punch 3 times and not queuing up himself from losing the turn on Rydia, and instead just waiting for that transformation to go through. While Paranoia is going straight into the fight, and he does not seem to have picked up the... I don't know if he picked up the Earth Hammer himself as well. He did not. He's still using a wooden hammer, which is a little bit of a disadvantage here, as he's losing out that DPS, and Rydia not getting the experience means she's not going to have enough experience to cast Sylph.
Yeah, this is going to put Paranoia in a rougher spot with this Demist fight that Rivers just got through successfully. Going to pick up that Edward and that Magma Key, so we might not see Edge soon or at all on Rivers' side.
Very true. He might go to that hook check if he wants to go and see the boss, because he does need to find Leviathan, but maybe he just goes underground. He doesn't have a great reason to go Ordeals at the moment. That could actually change things significantly, because if he had Edge, Rivers going and reading the sign to show something off.
Extra, extra.
And here, Rivers is remembering to go and actually check that Demus check, which is something that some people, myself, forget about.
Same. And checking the Mist Cave as well, because again, we're looking for a boss. This is a one-off location that's easy to get out of, so we will not be fighting the good doctor.
Well, I'm sure someone's disappointed, but it's not Rivers, and I'm going to guess if Paranoia finds them, they're also not going to be disappointed. Cool, we have a pass. That is a way to Zeromus, and could be something rather important.
Yep, although we do know that we're going to find and have to use the other way to Zeromus, given objectives 4 and 5. We are going to get that Darkness Crystal and go to the moon. But depending on where Leviathan is and how things shake out, we may have to come back, in which case that pass is a wonderful get.
Indeed. Actually, if you have to go to Cave Bahamut, it's still probably faster to finish off Cave Bahamut, exit out, come back to Earth, go to Troya, and use the pass door than it is to walk into the Lunar Palace and take that long walk down to the bottom.
You know, I do believe I've heard that that is measured out to be the case.
It is about 3 minutes to go from the top of the lunar subterranean without the cutscene to the bottom, I believe. Also, both our runners deciding to go and drop their magma key down the well at the same time. At this point, I think Rivers has done a bit extra looting, but Much Paranoia has that edge. So, who has the advantage is up in the air, I feel.
I would say at this point, both of our runners have one kind of duff character, or trash character almost, to say. But in River's case, it's Edward. In Paranoia's case, it's kind of Rydia right now. Without that Sylph, she's not going to be terribly valuable.
Yeah, and River's going into Dwarf and just checking to see, and seeing it's a Lunar Sparkle in Dwarf Castle. Not fighting it, but apparently wanted to go and see that information. And I'm going to agree on Rydia and Paranoia's team not being very helpful, as without any of her summons, she needs, realistically, she needs to get to Virus to really be able to be helpful. And if she doesn't have that, then she's definitely dead weight.
Both of our runners now headed down towards Feymarch. River's doing that risky looting again. There is a trap chest in here. There are 5 enemies in a formation that will wreck you. Certainly at these levels.
Yeah, especially at after taking the damage from the damage tiles, but it looks like Rivers is deciding to just peek ones that are not too far out of the way, so he doesn't have to spend too much time resetting and come back in. And just going in, checking here, and we're going to see from this check, we find the Darkness Crystal.
Ooh.
That is going to clear up 4 and 5. That opens up the entire seed. And now we're just looking for Leviathan and an Earth Crystal. That is going to be... Ooh.
Yeah, this is going to prioritize those boss slots even more compared to like doing the Yang visit through the Sylph Cave or anything else that like might get you a key item, but doesn't get you the boss information. Yeah,
that's definitely finding Earth Crystal is probably the top priority, just because that's going to be gated behind more checks. If you can get information on where Leviathan is, that would be helpful, but River's going into this Feymarch and checking the Feymarch boss to go and see if it is the Baron Guards. Still, if you have Hourglass or other forms of status elements, they can be a very free fight. But otherwise, Rivers has some pretty good information and is going to leave here.
If we do find a Cecil, then the other fight becomes... I don't want to say free, because that slot does punch hard, but a bit freer.
At the very least, Cecil can wear some very heavy armor, he can sit in the back row, and he does gain a lot of HP very quickly, so it's not impossible for just go into that fight, gear up your Cecil, get people healed up so they can soak a couple hits, and then when that second kick comes out, go and just leave right away. Or Rivers is just leaving right away. You can just win right away after the second kick comes out and Cecil hits.
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing the same move of checking chests over in the Sylph Cave, even when there are, I believe, 7 trap chests in here. Yes. Substantial number.
There are 7 trapped encounters. There are 3 ghosts, 1 double marble, 1 double marble, 2 dark trees, 1 2 centipedes, which Rivers has found, and 1 toad lady. The toad lady fight is slow, but won't kill you.
Won't kill your party, just kills your spirit.
Pretty much. Rivers is going, it looks like he's gearing himself up to go and do the Fabul check as he has spoken with Yang. He'll be able to go to Fabul, and as long as he doesn't get canned off the king, he'll feel pretty good about that, as he'll have saved a trip to Fabul. Meanwhile, Paranoia is finishing up their looting in Feymarch, and I'm curious as to where they're going to go next.
Did they check the Baron or the Dwarf Castle? Because that is information that Rivers had.
That's a good point. I don't believe Paranoia did, because Paranoia did a bit of extra shopping in Agart before they left. So Rivers exited Agart immediately out. Ooh, Paranoia seems to be going into the tower, which makes sense because he has an edge who can go and steal sirens. You just have to make sure you don't have a full inventory before that happens, before you try.
So this could be an interesting little grind strat from Paranoia to get some levels up on everybody and get more prepared for these later fights that are happening.
Yeah.
Not going to need a whole lot for this Fabul fight, though, I wouldn't say.
I would definitely agree. And yeah, if Paranoia is able to go and steal some siren, though he is not opening boxes, it looks like Paranoia might be setting up to actually just take a shot at the boss at the top.
It's a little bit of a bold dive to keyless tower with so many other options on the table, but it's the sort of bold play that can pay off.
Yeah, that's we'll have to see what's there. And we do get the twin harp from the King of Fabul, so that is something that is, well, we want to go and hear it because who doesn't want music?
So I do believe that in Venerable, who was helping on some of the back end of this stream today, was doing a run that showed off the stealing trick, the glitch that can back row Yang with a harp. And there were many monk musician based puns that I am largely forgetting now, but I'm hoping they'll come back to me by bringing it up.
Well, it certainly sounds like it was a charming time.
Mm-hmm.
But we find Odin on the top of the tower, and we do have a Thunderclaw, so we'll be able to do extra damage, but this bot does have a lot of HP. It might take Paranoia a fair bit to just burn through this damage. Going for the Mute Knife, which maybe he's going to go and do that in the event he doesn't find a Thunderclaw. Oh no, just using a Lip Bolt. Meanwhile, Rivers is choosing to go and throw in their Darkness Crystal and will be making that character check next. And chat pointing out that appears that we didn't necessarily have a Thunderclaw on Paranoia side, which is very unfortunate, as that would take Edge from doing about 600 damage to probably close to 2,000 damage.
And that might be the decider in this fight, as Odin's Sword is already coming up.
Yeah, while this bot doesn't have extraordinarily high magic power, that can still be enough to do 1,000 damage. Or 400, so not dead.
Wow!
But it looks like Paranoia was not interested in continuing through that fight and is instead choosing to walk back down. Maybe he needs to get enough to go and heal up through all this. Or is going back in with, we'll see if they go and choose a different strategy here.
I'm honestly surprised at how little damage Odin did there, because I've encountered him in relatively low magic attack spots, but still kind of wrecked the party. So this is just notably low, and that's might work out for Paranoia, or might make them push a little harder on this than is, wise.
Very true, and we see Rivers is going straight to Cape Bahama. I think he's going to take a peek at the boss to see if it's something he needs to go and incredibly over-prepare for, if it's something he can potentially get through, and maybe he's just going to go and do some looting here as well, which it looks like he is.
Yeah, if you want to talk about out-of-the-way locations, the moon is a little bit out of the way. So the treasure here should be a bit better than making further dives throughout the earth.
Yep, finding a Dragon Whip, which could be rather helpful for that Rydia, and a Nice Claw, which would be helpful for that Yang in River's party, or the Edge we know is around. And there is a Rubicant there, so we don't know if it's the Rubicant fight or the Elements fight.
Well, we are about to find out. Yep, it is just plain old Rubicant.
And there's an Ice Claw right in there, so I can see Rivers being happy to just leave with that knowledge as, yeah, that's, what you need. You're just going to have to go and get something, some more power to get through it, but it's not going to be terribly bad. And Much Paranoia getting the very nice Thunderstruck Odin kill. Usually you want to go and have someone like Edward to go and do that to just dodge the Odins, but Paranoia going for the gusto and just tanking through the hits and getting through Odin. Not getting experience on the whole party, but getting through the fight and getting a package, it seems.
Which, if that ends up being where Leviathan is hiding, then that's a heck of a play.
And speaking of where Leviathan is hiding, Rivers is going and getting his hook, and I imagine he's going to be going and checking those spots as he reset out of finding Edward on the moon and not even going and saving to skip the cutscene. So right now, Rivers has a bit more information than Paranoia, but Paranoia has some extra checks under his belt, it seems, with this tower play. And Rivers realizing he forgot to actually pick up the hovercraft as he goes back to Dempsey.
You do kind of need it.
Maybe he had his head in the clouds and was thinking of something else.
Entirely possible. Although for someone, so prominent and notable in the community, I'm not about to call him an airhead or anything.
He usually is a bit more grounded than this, I will admit.
Absolutely.
Though, Paranoia is certainly going and sneaking out a bit of an edge here with getting those sirens. Though, Rivers has shown that he is more than willing to use that interaction himself, as he has gone and stolen Bacchus wines off Mad Ogres. I would not be terribly surprised if we see Rivers go into Eblin just to get some of those himself.
Well, it's certainly not his original plan, but once he sees the edge here, might start thinking about readjusting that scheme.
Yeah, I think he's also going to go and readjust Edward's position in his party. To answer a question from chat that's been brought up and I'm happy to talk about, does Cry stack? I believe it does, as it has an incremental effect. It will go and increase up to a certain point. But yes, fun fact, Cry doesn't do anything except increase Edge's chance to steal, which I imagine is not the intended effect, just one of those weird things that came out of the programming.
I mean, considering in the vanilla game you never have the two characters at the same time, it's probably an oversight. That, or there was some really interesting chapter intended for this game that got left on the cutting room floor.
Well, the later versions do go and allow you to make your own party once you get through the giant and are heading off to the final dungeon, so maybe they were thinking of that.
Maybe. But I do suspect Rivers is thinking about the one trap chest that lives in Upper Babel and is thus avoiding all of the chests. Not going to bother looting the treasure, just going to bother seeing who the boss is here.
Which makes a lot of sense, as if it's Leviathan, that has a huge advantage for you, as no one's going to go and check this boss very early. This boss sucks. There is no other way to describe this check. This is awful. You hate doing it, but you're looking for a boss. You're looking for literally one boss. If it's here, you'll lose if your opponent checks it. You win if your opponent doesn't check it, and you don't go and get anything out of that. Sorry, Rivers. But here, Rivers is going to go and be checking for the charm arrows they picked up previously, because charm arrows are very helpful. In addition to being the third strongest arrow, they also do quadruple damage to giants. Meanwhile, Paranoia has finally remembered that they actually killed... No, maybe not. They're going to check the boss first, which...
They're in the neighborhood, don't worry. Okay, they'll get there.
They did park at the exact same spot Rivers did when Rivers checked it.
Well, this is their chance to redeem that.
And they did.
Well, redeem the package.
They're using the package, but they're resetting out. And are they going to go to the other side? Because I don't think they picked up their pass from
They
D-Mist.
did not, no.
Okay, they are going to the other side. I don't know which one they remembered first, the package or the D-Mist, but they at least now have that.
So yeah, clearly Much Paranoia is going to leave that package boss way late, clear out some more potentially valuable spots before bothering on what is really a one-off gamble.
Yeah, it's definitely a long trek to go and make, and Rivers is looking at the Evelyn shop and finding Mute Arrows, Earth Hammer, Ice Brand, and Dwarf Axe. The Dwarf Axe could be helpful if your Sid's agility really needs to get taken down, but otherwise, it's going to go and be not too much value for this party, as we don't have anyone who uses most of those weapons.
Yeah, afraid not.
And I believe Paranoia still has not done Fabul, so they'll be getting their Twin Harp here while Rivers is going down, and Rivers is going to Dwarf Castle. I wonder if he's going to go be taking this fight next.
I would. It seems a little sketch with the party overall so far, but you got that Rydia, you're committing to bringing her on the team. You might as well get her grown up.
At the very least, he's going and putting Yang in the middle with the curse string so that he can go and anchor for the team for a bit. Certainly don't blame him for this option, as Yang is definitely going to be the least damage on this team. Rydia still has Sylph. Sid is level 20-something. Edge is level 20-something. He has some okay weapons. And Rosa can do healing if we need it.
Notice Rosa is not doing healing for Much Paranoia quite yet, even though their Rydia is down on the floor. This is looking like a long-term anchor.
Considering that Paranoia doesn't have a curse ring, I can see this, as Rydia starts at 4 agility. That is a very low number, and it's really hard for anyone not to go and be super fast compared to her, so that's a pretty helpful number to have for an anchor. And Rivers, on the other hand, is really going to want Rosa to probably do a bit of healing as he finds Oga Pogo.
Yep, that is the incorrect nope rope for this set of objectives. Although it could be hiding the proper nope rope.
Indeed, as we still have a second boss here, and Rivers is not going to go want to use that Sylph summon, I think, as it's going to counter with Blaze, which is, fun fact, Ice Elemental, 25% of your character's max HP as damage.
I mean, Freezer Burn is a concept. I'll allow it.
It's definitely not what I was thinking when I saw that.
Well, remember, Rivers does have his Sid running around with that Fire Elemental Earth Hammer. So there's that.
True, that was something that got me very confused. I was wondering, why is my Earth Hammer Sid doing incredible damage to this Mylon Z? And Much Paranoia, I don't know if Paranoia looted Silvera, but he did go and buy a Thunderclaw from here. If he looted this location, then he has gotten the curse ring that Rivers has. If he didn't loot that location, that could be a bit of an issue for him if he wants to go and do anything else with Rydia.
Mm-hmm.
Rivers is through into the second fight and finding in something incredibly free, and finding another copy of Edge. This is the third Edge we have found at the seed.
Yeah.
I believe that is the Gata character is supposed to go and show up in the fewest locations, has currently shown up the most of any other party member of the seed. I appreciate this degree of irony.
And we certainly appreciate getting a fight that is this free at this stage. Rivers will be able to just res the party as he finds fit, which looks like not at all. Or beyond Yang.
Well, between the two, Yang does really need that experience in order to go and start doing much of anything, and Sid kind of doesn't really start doing much more when he has levels, so I can understand this play.
And now we have Paranoia raising the big whale as well. See how far they decide to go in on the moon, or if this is just getting things prepared.
Yeah, it is. Again, that is objective number 5. Rivers has already done it, and he does. We don't have eyes on the 7th character. We don't know who that is, and at this point, that character is going to be gated behind either Baron Key or Earth Crystal, I believe, or the Giant itself.
Mm-hmm. And more vanilla rewards as we get the Luca key out of Dwarf Castle.
Speaking of gating things, that's going to go and gate a fair amount, and Rivers actually has a little bit of an advantage of checking that because his Rydia has enough levels to cast Warp, which Paranoia currently doesn't. Not to mention, there is not a insubstantial chance that Rydia is the only character in the seed who will be able to cast Warp.
Yeah, with only one character still missing, there's only one that could. Well, oh no. No, I'm wrong. But still, a low enough chance.
I mean, let's see. We've seen 6 characters. Of the 6 remaining, 3 of the remaining can cast Warp with Tella, Basoya, and Palom, but Palom requires level 30 almost to go and cast Warp. But the other characters we can still get are Cecil, Kane, and Porum.
Yeah, just, the 2 major characters in the game's narrative, the 2 characters that you start with, they're just not here. We probably won't see them at all.
Sir is not appearing in this story.
Yes, Rivers is going to immediately redeem that Luca key and take the long walk down the sealed cave. See if this is at all of interest, either for the key item or for the boss slot. We are looking for one of each of those.
Yeah, there's also some nice stuff in this cave because it's also a gated out of the way location, so maybe Rivers is thinking he can pop out something helpful and want to keep it, but this is a bit of a long check, and he might have the levels to take it on, but it might also be a bit dicey for him depending on how things go.
Something helpful like that Asura that is for sale. Paranoia spotted it but did not bother grabbing it, so seems committed to not using Rydia much, if at all.
That's I mean, you do have Rosa at least, which you don't have to go and you don't have to play the odds if sure it's going to heal you today or disappoint you with a lot of revived, very low health party members. But here we see Paranoia going checking the moon shop. I don't know if Rivers did this while Rivers finding a rune axe. Yes, I'm sure that is the incredible value he was hoping in Sealed Cave. But he does have one more check that might get him value if this is Leviathan.
And Sylph is for sale on the moon. And it's the Gauntlet in Sealed Cave.
That cave is sealed up. I don't think anyone's going to be opening that. I don't think anyone's batty enough to take that fight.
You know what? That is this seed's honorary dope rope.
It's really hard to go and say no to that rune axe when, gee, I need to fight the entire gauntlet and warp out of Sealed Cave. Well, what we do know is Paranoia is probably not going to be punished for having for not having Rydia leveled with warp. Meanwhile, Rivers is going back to Cave Bahamut. I don't know if he's going to take some fights here, if he's going to go and grab something he found particularly interesting, or if he's just going to go straight into this. As he's putting an Ice Claw on edge, he might be choosing just to go straight into this Rubicant fight, which I'm not necessarily going to disagree with, I think.
Even kitting up Ed, or Yang rather, to have something resembling good gear.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're going to see that Sid with the Earth Hammer that does fire damage gets a Cursed Ring.
Yeah, time to curse our engineer.
I mean, they're already cursed with knowledge. What else can we curse them with?
A support queue? I don't know.
Oh, I think you said curse, not send down to the deepest layers of Hades.
No, we're just going down the deep layers of the moon.
Cape Bahama isn't that deep yet, though.
Fair.
We don't get to the sixth circle until we get to the lunar subterrane. Here we only have queues, lines at the grocery store, and people who don't properly stay quiet during movies.
Mm-hmm. And of course,
going all in.
Fire.
River's going all in and berserking Edge. Just, yeah, I'll go and take fire 2 counters. What are you going to do about it?
Well, he's gonna do fire 2, which doesn't even do 100 damage. So, looking like a good strat.
Yeah, and Rydia's, I mean, everyone's pulling out 3,000 damage with their attacks at the moment. Okay, Edge only pulled out 2,000 there, but not really going to be too bad. He might need to go and stop on occasion of these to go and throw out Sylphs with Rydia to heal up the party, or just Gear 2 with Rosa. And I see that chat is more than happily renaming the Ice Claw to the Nice Claw, the Thunder Claw to the Thunder Claw. Alright, chat, what's the Fire Claw?
The Dire Claw. Because it's just not as good, honestly.
I mean, look, Mylon Z's scared of it.
Mylon Z is scared of a lot of things. He's scared of a hammer.
I mean, he's one of the 4th elemental fiends. He can't be that weak, can he? Alright, who am I kidding? He is that weak.
Yeah. Rubicant is not, though. That glare knocked out Edge, and that punch knocked out Rydia.
Yeah, it turns out, the leg. He doesn't skip leg, nor does he skip arm day either, I'm guessing.
No, very well exercised. He's looking more like a fighter class character who just knows a few spells on the side, rather than a proper mage.
Maybe that's why he's giving out all those dirty looks. People thinking that with a long flowing cloak, he's supposed to be a mage. Also, I appreciate how much chat is going in on the Fire Claw right now. My goodness, you are, you're showing your disdain. I didn't realize we had so many feelings on the different weapons for Yang.
Well, there's only so many. It's easy to have an opinion on the whole set.
But this Rubicant fight overall seems to be going pretty well for Rivers. This isn't really taking too much time. He is, yes, if he went and came in at another 20 or 30 levels, he would certainly be ripping through this without much trouble, but he's not really getting through this now, and there is Rubicant giving his script. I think that only comes out when Rubicant has a few hundred HP left. Meanwhile, we see Paranoia pulling out something I saw the last time I commentated a race, the reaction grind.
Yep, it's a relatively specific trick that involves casting Lit 1 on a grenade in just the right formation, and it counters with reaction, which destroys everyone not in your party.
Yes, that is, if you've seen the vanilla speedrun and seen the spell Upco, that's actually what ends up getting cast when Fu uses that. Reaction kills every enemy in the enemy party, not the party who cast it. And River's getting through there, but I believe he only got a strength ring from that, which is, not quite.
You get an objective done. That's what matters.
And Rivers is heading back to the Earth. I wonder where he's going to go next. Maybe he's going to go tower and grab some sirens like muchparanoia did.
Yeah, could do that. Ooh. Does this formation work?
It does, however, the Thor Rage does not. It has to be a single target lit cast on one grenade. That is actually a very specific thing about this, but Rivers instead is choosing to be the people's hero and giving us music.
Because, yes, for those who have not seen a free enterprise seed before, first of all, welcome. Second of all, we randomize quite a few things. Character palettes, boss locations, Wyvern's opening spell if you want to set that on. And we like to randomize the little tune that Edward plays, because dude's got a robust repertoire.
He is a bard. He, knowing spells is probably a pretty good thing for him. Or not spells, knowing music. If he knew spells, he might be a little bit more useful. But knowing music, that's something we can at least tolerate. If you're going to go and forgo learning the arcane arts of the world that allow you to control the elements, at least knowing a few jamming tunes is going to go and make you, that much a bit more acceptable in our eyes. Answer a question from chat. Package was from the top of Keyless Tower. River's not even saving going into this fight, just getting ready, going straight down. Pia sits down, everyone else is wearing metal equipment. Woe is upon our party, all is lost, nothing is going to go and save them except for Edward.
And we shall go quiet for a moment so you can hear the latest selection from Edward's playlist of pickup jams.
And we find our Leviathan. The boss hunt is over. We are now in key item check mode. And we are in required music mode as well, as that is the Super Mario RPG battle theme, if I am not mistaken.
That indeed is.
And if this gives a vanilla Earth Crystal, then we're really set to have been able to get everything without even leaving the Earth. Actually, excuse me, we had to go leave the Earth to get Cave Bahamut. But here, there is that reaction spell getting cast by the grenade, and there is Paranoia's party going and getting a bunch of experience as they now have a proper Paranoia now has a proper formation. Only getting 10,000, which is probably a bit less than Paranoia was hoping, but we'll see. I think Paranoia might have ended up being better just going back to Tower and grinding Sirens, but Rivers has found the Earth Crystal.
What a time for our third vanilla key item in this seed.
Vanilla key item, another check. And Rivers just has to go and open the treasury, and he has the crystal. He is in go mode. he does not have to take any more fights. He's probably going to, because he needs to go and get level to kill Zeromus, but...
Yeah, there is a little matter of the final boss, but I think Rivers can handle that. Can certainly get the levels necessary many ways.
Theoretically, in the seed, you only needed to do Fabul, Cave Magnus, and then either the Baronin or the Hook route, and you're set. You have everything.
Yeah.
You had to go and... Well, no, when you got the big whale, you could go up to the moon to get Edward that way, or you could do Baronin and get that Edward. This would be a kind of fascinating seed to go and do a little Router's relish of, because you would go and get the Magma Key from Baronin, and you get the pass from Demas, which probably makes that better.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go and have the question of how badly do I want to do edgy strats, which is probably going to be very...
Yeah. But yeah, the Darkness Crystal was the item check in the Feymarsh, correct? So then This entire seed, there were 5 bosses required. That's it.
Yeah, there are not that many bosses required in the seed. That is rather impressive. And hats off to our researcher Invenerable for going and pulling that off. And speaking of pulling things off, Rivers has pulled out some Heroin Robes and a Bahamut Summon and a Cat Claw, which he'll probably be rather happy to have on Yang. But now Rivers has his crystal. Rivers does not have 10 key items and has the real question of where and how do I grind? Do I go clean up my inventory a bit and try and grab Sirens from the tower? Do I go and try a max giant grind in the giant, which might be a little difficult with this team? Where is Rivers? Do I do a door grind with less than 10 key items?
I feel like, yeah, the tower play might be the smartest one, because you can go up to the top, be like, well, if there's a key item here, wonderful. If not, oh well. And you've got this opportunity for Siren Grinds. We know that if you do climb all the way up and do that fight, you will get your 10th key item, you will get that double XP.
Very true. That could be very important for Rivers, as he's sitting at 9. The Earth Crystal brought him up to 8, words are hard. Earth Crystal brought him up to 9. The actual Earth Crystal brought him up to 8. The actual Crystal brought him up to 9. Kids, don't do math on stream. It's never worth it.
No math is allowed here. This is an RPG. But if you are looking at the tracker and see, well, wait, there's 10 things highlighted. The pass does not qualify as a key item in this calculation. It is 17, not all 18 that you see. The pass is still very valuable. We can have objectives based off of it. It's important, but it's not a key item for that calculation.
Yeah, that was something that happened with the transition to the new version, where you can have multiple ways to get the pass. You can go and have it as a key item, you can have it available in a shop, or you can go and have it as a random item in one of the 3 chests in the world, on the blue planet specifically. But here we see Paranoia going and cleaning up a little bit in a Yellow Dragon fight, as he had a little bit of a mishap and is now getting some more levels on his team. Paranoia is in an interesting situation. He needs to go to Twin Harp to get objectives 1 and 3, and then he just has to go and clear Cave Bahamut, and he's also in go mode, but there is the real question of when does Much Paranoia go for Twin Harp?
Well, out of the key items that they have, there's not a lot of other direction.
Yeah,
having already peaked the package, used Magma Key and the Hook.
My biggest concern is if Much Paranoia goes and is grinding levels to take on the Feymarsh bosses, and they give him either Baron Key, Tower Key, or a Rat Tail. Or if he goes and gets enough levels to go to the moon and start clearing stuff there.
Yes. There are a fair number of bosses up on the moon. but none of them are Leviathan this seed.
No, the moon outside of an explicitly required cave Bahamut on your tracker, the moon is haunted. But while our runners are going and getting themselves leveled and getting themselves prepared, let's go and give a bit of a shout out to them, as without them, we wouldn't go and have a show, and they are definitely going and putting on a good show for us. They are muchparanoia and riversmccown. If you want to go and give them a follow, you can as well. And let's also give a shout out to our restreamer Invenerable, our tracker Skull Kitty, and my co-host Cupman. Thank you for commentating with me tonight.
Well, thank you, Baga Shinobi, as well, for jumping on this absolutely fascinating seed. I'm honestly surprised. 5 boss minimum. That's incredibly low.
What's amusing is if we had found Fasoya in the seed, it would have been incredibly awkward because you'd still be trying to find bosses to pick off to get Fasoya up to all his spells and get all of his HP. You wouldn't have a good Fasoya in the seed.
Yeah, not without doing unnecessary fights. And I guess, the Dwarf Castle counts as unnecessary, that Rivers did do. So that's 2 more. But that's still not a lot.
The unnecessary Rivers fights were Dwarf Castle. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
I think so.
Muchparanoia went and took the tower fight, which is ending up being unnecessary, these Dwarf Castle fights, which will end up being unnecessary. But he hasn't gone much further. And no one even looked at Ordeals to Seed, which is impressive because it's one of the overworld checks.
And it's 3 bosses and a key item, and when you have a boss hunt, that is something you might want to, tackle. Get those options out of the way.
Yeah, the boss hunt is definitely would be a big factor of that, but apparently Rivers decided that still needing key items to go and focus on the more efficient key item checks was his route, and it's definitely paid off for him because he just cleared everything he needed to, and then let's do Twin Harpies. I know, well, it could give me a key item, it's probably the easiest key item check I have, and hey, here's the Leviathan, and hey, here's my Earth Crystal as well. And for a seed where it's pretty quickly getting you to 5 and 6 characters seen with next to no duplicates being seen until we saw 2 duplicate edges, we are not going to see the 7th character I'm expecting because they're either in Baron, Giant, or the Earth Crystal, and the Earth Crystal is probably going to be go mode for both our runners because it's behind the boss that you're hunting for. And with that, the runners know where the last check is. It's in Cave Bahamut. You don't need to go looking for it. And here we see Rivers looks like Yang is staying dead for a little bit, or maybe something happened to him that I missed. It could be that Bridia missed 1 or 2 swings on her whip and didn't quite get the kill.
Yeah, we saw 1 hatch and 1 thunder, and that really knocked things down. But still got the XP on 3/5 of the party.
Losing out on Yang is definitely a little bit unfortunate, or as he's named him, Antidale. But 15 Sirens, that's going to get him about 450,000 experience. Nowhere near enough experience to get Nuke on Rydia, but that could be enough to go and get Rosa up to Cure. Well, Rosa already has Cure 4, but more likely to get Rosa up to the high 40s and close to that 2,000 HP line.
Yeah, that's the main thing that you're going to be pushing for. You want that nuke on Rydia, but you really want to be able to just survive a little stronger.
Yeah, Rosa surviving is going to be the big important thing here, I feel, as she's the linchpin of this. I don't know if we're going to see Rivers go and play around with some Madrigers for a little bit to try and get some Bacchus wines, as he only has one source of Berserk, and that's Rosa, who's also going to need to be doing some healing. Maybe taking a minute or two, or probably a few minutes, honestly, to find some Madrigers and steal Bacchus wines off them would be on the table for Rivers.
And, Mad Ogres being a trap chest fight, you do know where to find them if you're looking for them.
Yeah, you can go into Castle Eblin and just have to, have 1 and 3 to be found, but yeah, that's still a bit of time to be committing, but you could also pull out some gear, like maybe you find a good sword for Edge, maybe you find a power shirt for one of your fighters. There's stuff you can get out of there, but it's also just, I could get a bit stronger, or I could go now because this pass was in the overworld that you're probably going to find on your way. We had Edge open from the beginning of the seed, and there was a magma key early on. My opponent could just simply have gotten a whole bunch of sirens early, taken levels, and cleared all these checks more efficiently than me. I might not have the luxury of going and looking around for stuff. I might just need to go. We do see Rivers Paranoia going and finishing up Dwarf Castle. He'll get that Luca key, and we'll see if Paranoia commits to checking it and discovering that there's a very, very pristine rune axe that's going to be in very pristine condition, as the Gauntlet is going to make sure that it's well polished and touched by no one.
Yeah, and that is definitely going to hurt to see, because you expended a lot of time on the Ogo fight specifically. Yeah, King and Quinn Evelyn, not really much time spent. But, investing in that, investing in doing the Luca Cave check, doing the Sealed Cave check, you're spending time, and you're worried that your opponent didn't do that.
Yeah, and Paranoia didn't go down to Sheila and get the spoon from her, which, once he goes and... If he goes to Twin Harbor right away, he'll go get his Earth Crystal and be in no mode and be in position to just grind, but not going to have 10 key items unless he does an extraneous check, which would put him further behind. And here he is going into the Luca cave, or Sealed Cave with a Luca key. Granted, Rydia does have Warp at this point, so that's going to go, and that might go and be pushing him there, but we also know this is going to be a 2-minute walk of, hi, would you like to not have something of value? Would you like to have an extremely good reason to just reset out of this place? Here, have one. Have 2 even.
Would you like to be reminded that you left battles on?
Battles on before you saved outside, so you're going to go forget about it after you reset. That's going to sting a bit.
Yep. But it looks like Rivers is done with encounters, done with the Siren Grind.
He might be going and looking around for a Silk Web, which Paranoia did find in the Troya shop, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it was. Which is going to be good for Rivers, because he'll be in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and Rivers is going very far north, going to Troya, is going to be... Is he going to be going checking shops for something, or is he going to go and be heading to Zeromus? Yeah, it looks like Rivers is going straight to Zeromus. He is not going to go and be looking around with too many shops. And, hey, what's with these flags in chat?
Well, there is a bit of curiosity around Zeromus. Likes to change up his style from time to time. And so we always like to wonder, whose butt are we kicking?
Indeed. We don't throw Zeromus in the normal boss pool because he's a bit too much, a bit too complicated, a bit too strong, a bit too mean, and, well, he's just a bit too ugly to go and let out of this lunar core. So let's give him a makeover and find out whose butt we are kicking tonight.
We're having a conversation before this about the various opportunities. There are so many,
Yes.
so many possibilities for what could be in here. I would love to see just some random indie RPG that hardly anyone here has heard of, and just like mass confusion in chat.
I have a few of those games that I'm fond of as well. I do have a few games that are near and dear to my heart. I wouldn't be terribly sad to see something from Golden Sun. That is a series that
Yeah,
I am quite fond of.
that's a solid one. I don't think that's from Golden Sun.
I believe this is from Echo the Dolphin, because how could you not tell this is from Echo the Dolphin?
It's a nice, cute game about dolphins, and then there's aliens at the end, and this thing that will haunt your nightmares. I'm not speaking from experience or anything, but I might be. Okay, back to tracking.
Well, I have nightmares for tonight. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couldn't we go to something less scary, like Clippy?
I thought you said less scary.
I mean, to each their own.
But Rivers is throwing out some reflected lit 3s with Rydia for the moment. I don't think he's expecting Rydia to survive too far into this fight, but I don't think he really needs Rydia to survive too far into this fight, as he has two competent Berserkers, one cursed Berserker, and a lot of damage potential.
And some pretty solid healing potential.
Yeah, Rosa is going to go and be a pretty solid character. Rosa is, we're glad we didn't start with Porum, because Porum does not go and get this level of HP until there's another 10 levels under her belt.
Yeah, Porum has her values. You know, she has her advantages, and those mostly exist by, you know, having a party that doesn't have Rosa in it.
Yeah, that's, look, she's got the advantage of learning Exit naturally, where Rosa needs to go and complete the Tower of Zot to learn Exit, and letting Berserker level sooner,
Mm-hmm.
and starting in an agility that is fantastic for an anchor. But this Aromas fight is definitely being pretty textbook, as Sid did 455 damage. That poor curse string is doing quite a bit to Sid's damage.
Trying. Sid's doing his best. He's had a long day. He's not up to his maximum potential. Also, that ring is cursing him. So there's that part too.
Yeah, that's Sid is carrying a heavy burden of needing to go and slow down Zeromus enough to let the team catch up. And muchparanoia is back overground in Baron at this point, finding exits in the shop. I imagine Rivers would have liked to have found those exits, because he'd have two places to not go and use warp to get out of. But Paranoia, with those exits, might be much more inclined to go to the Twin Harp we know he needs to get to. Oh dear.
Also more inclined to go to the lunar subterrane that we know you don't need to go to. Hopefully they are just going and clearing Cave Bahamut, which is required and is perfectly fine.
And is what Rivers did. So Rivers did go and clear Cave Bahamut first. Paranoia is going straight over there. Paranoia might be going and getting exactly what they need. And we're going to go and see how that goes, because he's definitely got more levels than Rivers did. And if he hits those chests, he'll find an Ice Claw, which will go and definitely give him advantage. And there's the encounters he got to turn off again.
At least it's only a single warlock.
Yeah, it's definitely not, warlocking him down too much. But River's Zeroma's fight is going pretty nicely. Bridia keeps getting picked up. I've not been seeing exactly what has been Bridia's position so far, but it's I wonder if he's been able to go and throw his Starbell out and get Lit 3s reflected on Bridia.
There were one or two early on, but at this point, a lot of Ridia's work has been catching up and just staying alive, which is not super helpful. But I'm sure Maggie the Cat in chat is very appreciative of this effort.
Gets knocked down and she gets up again. She's never going to keep her down. Maybe he's keeping Ridia up to be another nuke target, which I can respect, because if those nukes go onto Rosa, that gets really hairy.
Yes, please don't nuke me. I've never been so invested in a runner's Zeroma's fight before.
I can't go and disagree with the sentiment, to be entirely honest. It's, don't kill me, please. Kill me, please don't kill me. And we are on rocks with Rivers. This is, his team is, all the important people are standing, and then Ridia dodges the rocks because Maggie wants to see the end of this fight. It is not going to take long for Rivers to finish this. He has got Zerkers up. They can each take at least 2 Meteos. Yang can take 3. This is going to go and get through this pretty well. Ridia goes and hits a reflected Lit 3 and finishes off Vortex Mux,
Does it?
making Rivers our first place finisher with a time of 1 hour, 14 minutes, 23 seconds. GG Rivers. He will be advancing into the round of 8 and into best of 3 matches. He will be facing off against Zilch. Excuse me, he'll be facing off Penguinator.
Penguinator, yep.
That was a slight mistake on my part. That,
If you don't mind, while we wait to get Rivers into the chat, I can run down what our bracket will be looking like, because this is the last match of this round, so we have all of that sorted out. We will have Invenerable facing off against Pizza 34. Zilch, as mentioned earlier, is actually facing Flurry 14. Moonblaze Wolf will be taking on Nabla Force. And yes, as you mentioned, Penguinator will be taking on our winner here, Rivers.
And we are joined by our winner, Rivers, now. Congratulations on your first place finish, Rivers. What did you think when you saw that Edge you'd left alone for the entire beginning of the game?
I actually wasn't that worried about it. I figured this would be like a commentary point, but Edge early on isn't that big a difference maker with Sid. Like, some of the fights probably got done a little bit faster, but I wanted to save that, put it off just a little bit in case I needed to take down Leviathan at that spot. And thankfully I didn't, but I did want to put it off.
I was curious if you were going to be concerned, because you did get a lot of access to the underground early on, and that Sid could go, or that Edge could pull out Sirens. I was curious if you were thinking leaving him alone for so long means that my opponent could have gotten a bunch of levels and gotten through some Harrier checks faster and easier.
No, I wasn't really that concerned about that. I know that Paranoia likes to kind of grind around, and I was also kind of expecting Edward strats anyway, so that was part of it too.
How invested were you in Edward strats when you eventually gave up your Edward, as you found your 6th character in your 6th character check, I believe?
Yeah, that was kind of wild, just how many people got thrown at me. And then right away, you knew that all of them were going to be like really hard to level too. I kept trying to find like a Tela, Fu, something to push me that way. I even picked up an Ogrex and Dwarf Castle, thinking maybe that was what I would have to do here. But found that Edge, really thought about doing the grind, decided that eggs were safer, and just went with eggs.
I was curious also, what pushed you to go and clear out Rubicant before going down and firing up the Sirens to get additional levels?
I wasn't really like I had the Ice Claw, I had Ice 2 once I did Dwarf Castle. I didn't really think I was at a big disadvantage of the fight. I know that Ruby there has pretty low magic. I knew I was going to get some one shots, but I figured it'd be fairly fast. And because the magic is kind of low, I could use Sylph to kind of buffer out the HP and not be too concerned. So once I saw that was there, I was thinking maybe I just got to do this stuff.
Makes sense.
Yep, and we also have Paranoia in here in the chat who did forfeit upon seeing the dot done. Paranoia, that was a heck of a seed to have to go up against.
It's just, I will note, like, the best play against me is always to do Twin Harp. If I can ignore Twin Harp, I will. And I hate it. I hate that.
I mean, there are so many seeds where that is the correct play. There are so many seeds where that wins you the race, and this was just not one of those. And that is actually kind of ridiculous given how the rest of the seed went.
It was quite impressive how much, like, we effectively had 2 doubled up objectives and 1 objective that you were almost guaranteed to find in the course of doing the other 2. As Edward was sitting in Baronin and on the moon that you're required to get the Darkness Crystal for launch and take up to Cape Bahamut. So speaking of launching rivers, what drove you to just not sit through that cutscene? Were you certain that you were just not going to go and need to get through here, or were you just thinking, I don't want to waste this time now? What drove you to just absolutely reset out of it?
I'm sorry, which cutscene was that?
The getting Edward on the moon cutscene. You didn't go and sit through and recruit him, I believe.
Yeah, I already had him. I had him from Baron, so there wasn't really a point in me taking him there, and I'd already saved, kind of thinking, well, this moon might be a place where I just check and see what's here and not actually do anything, and rolled out that way, reset back to Earth, and just continue on with my checks.
It definitely worked out. I was surprised just because and you'll have to go through that cutscene to go through the lunar subterrane, but having never need to go into it, that was definitely well worth it for you. And Paranoia, have you been spoiled where Leviathan and Earth Crystal
Oh,
were?
yeah!
Like I said, this was quite the seed. This was a ridiculous seed in so many ways.
And, yeah, just like where Leviathan and where Earth Crystal was, it was real bad for me in particular because I don't like doing Twin Harp if I can help it.
Yeah, that's just one of the things that stood out. We were talking in the commentary, but this is a seed that could come down to just needing to do about 5 bosses, I believe. You had to do Fabul to go and get the Twin Harp itself. You either had, to get the Twin Harp, you had to go and do Cave Bahamut for Rubicant, and then you could skip Baron Inn and go through the Hook route, which would be 2 bosses, or you would do Baron Inn, get 2 bosses, and Edward, and a Magma Key. So there's 4 bosses there, and then you just had to go and defeat the Twin Harp boss himself. How did you feel when you're seeing so many of these objectives coming so quickly?
I'm going to assume that's for me, but I was just like, yeah, I was just thinking the whole time, Twin Harp is something where I didn't want to do top of tower right away. That party's still kind of weak. I didn't know if there was going to be something really bad up there, so it became Twin Harp ordeals, have no reason to go to ordeals, maybe Twin Harp's where I play the seed, do Twin Harp, get Leviathan, like, oh, okay, well, I'm really glad I did that. Check the reward, like, oh, well, I'm really glad I did that now. But at the same time, I was thinking, if Paranoia happened to play against Tendency and do that and keep the Edward, then I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm in a lot of trouble. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, at that point, I probably would have sold everything and just gone straight to Zeramus.
Yeah, because that is definitely a very valid way with Edward in the seed. That is an interesting point to go and just have that weighing on your mind. And Paranoia, do you want to go and talk a bit about your top of tower experience?
Top of tower is actually pretty fun. Since it was Odin up there, I'm like, okay. I burned that bolt real early, but I bet we could do this faster. Because Odin doesn't actually hit that hard up there.
Yeah, I
You
was
can
I
heal
was
through
quite
it.
surprised.
Yeah,
I
that
just-
was-
I just got the couple slows off on him so I could make sure the timing was right, and then dropped the lightning bolt.
yeah, that is a kill that you don't see usually without Edward going and doing it, and it being a very scary and touch and go setup, as Edward's not going to go and survive too many of those hits. But you just said, "Oh, you're kind of not bringing the intensity down. You're going and bringing the you can maybe shave off a bit of my hair down." With that, do you, either of you have any more thoughts on the seed? This has definitely been a rather interesting one to see so far.
Rando going to Rando.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part of that seed was just trying to figure out where you want to grind, if you were going to grind at all, because there was a little kind of midpoint here where you're like, well, I have no Berserk, I have Rydia with Sylph, and that's kind of it. And what am I going to do about it? And I started checking characters, then found that edge to kind of bail me out. You saw I used the Bacchus in Dwarf Castle just because that could have been really big. And I think that's kind of the way I wanted to play it, to avoid grinding via some kind of random encounter, and all kind of came together from there.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, Paranoia, you are unfortunately out of the Fabul Gauntlet. How did you enjoy your experience with it so far?
Well, I had a good time. I'm sure he'll see me again back in, whenever the league pops up.
Oh, I'm sure we will. You are definitely, all the bracket rounds players have been amazing, and this is going to be some very fierce competition to see in the future. And to Rivers, how are you feeling about advancing against and going against Penguinator?
Oh, pretty good. I mean, as Penguin said when he won his match, we've never really had like a full on out, have it out match in free enterprise history, so that should be cool. I'm glad it's best of 3. Kind of opens up some risk-taking chances, and I mean, Penguin's really good. I mean, he won Zima's Zone 2, so that's there. But very, very happy to get this far, and gonna give it my best shot.
I'm sure no matter how it goes, it's going to be an amazing race between the two of you, and well, set of races, because it is going on from best of 1 to best of 3 with the round of 8. So this is going to be a lot of exciting matches coming up.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we happen to, there's like 3 good underdogs left. There's 5 really good players, top 8 seeds left. The guys who are actually lower seeded have outplayed a lot of their competition on the way here. So, I mean, I think we've got some really, really good matches coming up next week, and hope everybody's as hyped for them as I am.
Well, I'll certainly be hyped for them, because this has been a very hype match. It was very quick, very condensed, where you really came down to 2 locations giving you half of 2 locations both gave you 2 objectives each functionally, and then you had to get an Edward, which was in one of 2 very accessible locations. So this became a very fascinating match to watch, just to see how things went and got split. But with that, I believe we're going to be wrapping up with this evening. Thank you very much, Paranoia and Rivers, for joining us. It was a fantastic race to see, and we're hoping to see more from you in the future.
Thanks.
Yep, and we will be seeing more of the Fabul Gauntlet in the future. Like we said, the next round starts tomorrow, whenever the next matches get scheduled. We don't actually have those scheduled as far as I know. But, keep tuned in here. If you're not following the Free Enterprise channel, be sure to do so. And, of course, follow our runners, muchparanoia and riversmccown. They are both very good at this game, as you saw. Able to handle some just fascinating seeds. I'm just amazed at that one.
Yeah, this is definitely, again, a fantastic seed to watch. Follow our runners, follow our support team, Invenerable on Restream, Scala Kitty on tracking, and Huffman joining me on commentary. This has been a fun night. And if you're up for a bit more fun, we'll be going and sending you over to RPG Limit Break for the Final Fantasy 1 randomizer tournament. If you haven't been watching that is definitely something you'll be able to see. And I have been Baku Shinobi.
And I'm Hupfin. Good night, everybody.